Dhamma nu Dhamma patipandeya buddham puje Dhamman puje Sanghan puje. By following the Dhamma, practicing Dhamma in accordance with Dhamma, I worship the Buddha, Dhamma and the Sangha. May this offering be accepted for our welfare. So we have been discussing ASUBHA. कल हमने चर्चा की थी उसकी प्रैक्टिस के बारे में. उससे पहले उस थियोरेटिकल फाउंडेशन कुछ स्टडी किया था. कल नाना प्रकार से कैसे प्रैक्टिस कर सकते हैं उसके बारे में चर्चा की थी. और मैंने बताया था कि एक सूत्र है जिसमें कॉम्प्रहेंसिव एडवाइस अवेलेबल है. तो उस कॉम्प्रहेंसिव एडवाइस के बारे में आज चर्चा करेंगे थोड़ा सा. I'll just read out some excerpts from that sutta. But before we start, I think it's important to issue another caution again, because I have found that many times people practice various suggestions given here without looking at the preconditions for that. तो जो अशुभ संज्ञा है, it is primarily for reducing the lust, reducing the attraction to body, human body. Okay? तो ये इसलिए जो राग चरित्र है, जिनका लोभ चरित्र है, उनके लिए सुटेबल है. अगर किसी का दोष चरित्र है तो उसको नहीं करनी चाहिए. उससे उसका दोष जो है, नेगेटिविटी, अवर्शन और बढ़ जाएंगे. सो वी टू वेरी केयरफुल ऑन दैट. एंड वी मस्ट ऑल्सो बी अवेयर that if Ashubha Sanya is fully developed, उसको बहुत sincerely practice करें, तो इसकी implication क्या होगा? Because it's basically, the instruction was given primarily for monks, but it's valid for us also, especially after we've crossed the period of householders, crossed the period of reproductive age, that if the full development of Ashubha Sanya takes place, the criteria to judge is that my mind shrinks away from all sexual activities. So we must be careful about it, about practice of this Ashubha Sanya. So the sutta जो मैंने कल जिक्र किया था, वो संयुक्त निकाय में 35.127, वो भारद्वाज सुत्ता है. कई जगह उसको पिंडोला भारद्वाज सुत्ता भी कहा गया. It's a very interesting sutta. And एक अरहंत भारद्वाज थे, पिंडोला भारद्वाज उनका पूरा नाम था. वो कुशाम्बी में मोनेस्ट्री में थे वहाँ, और वहाँ कुशाम्ब के राजा जो है उदयन, वो उनके पास गए उनसे, और बातचीत के बाद उनसे कहा कि ये कैसा हो जाता है कि आपके यहाँ तो इतने यंग लोग हैं, मॉन्क्स हैं, जिनके बिल्कुल प्राइम स्टेज ऑफ यूथ में हैं, और वो they have not indulged in any sensual pleasures, और फिर भी वो लाइफ लॉन्ग चेस्ट लाइफ को जीते हैं, प्योर लाइफ जी पाते हैं. ऐसा कैसे संभव हो पाता है? क्योंकि इट इज सीन टू बी ए नेचुरल इंस्टिंक्ट. तो पिंडोला भारद्वाज जी उनको ग्रेडेड रिप्लाईज देते हैं. तो फर्स्ट स्टेज का जो रिप्लाई देते हैं, I'll just read out the small parts of it, which very well known to us. कि भगवान हमको ऐसे सिखाते हैं, with regard to women who are old enough to be your mother, establish the attitude you would have towards your mother. With regard to women who are old enough to be your sister, establish the attitude you would have towards a sister. With regard to women who are young enough to be your daughter, establish the attitude you would have towards your daughter. Of course, for nuns, it will be complementary. It will be the, for old person, your fatherly relationship, for same age sister, and for younger age son. So the Aran says that this is one reason why these young monks, because they relate to the woman in this manner, they are able to avoid getting carried away by the sexual energy. Then the king says, yeah, it's very good. If the people have a mind in control, then certainly they can do it. But our mind is very unruly, sir. And sometimes I see that lust can arise even for women who are old or of same age or even younger. So there must be some other thing also that we must be teaching to follow this lifelong chaste life. He says, yes, great king, the Blessed One has also taught us Asubha Bhavana. Then he discusses the same 32 parts of the body, and it is this Asubha Bhavana which makes sure that our tendency for lust is drastically curtailed. And therefore, even though these young people have not played with the kind of word they have used, just played with the Kameshu, Akilita one vinno Kameshu means not उन्होंने काम वासना के साथ खेल नहीं किया है. They don't enjoyed it. Still, they are able to live a chaste life. So the king is impressed, but he again says, if अगर कोई साधक सचमुच में शील में पुष्ट है, समाधि में पुष्ट है, प्रज्ञा में काफी हद तक पुष्ट है, तब तो बड़ा आसान है ये सब अशुभ भावना काम करना. लेकिन मैं तो अपनी बात तो कहते हैं कि मैं तो कई बार सोचता हूँ कि ये इसको I look at it as something ugly, but only beauty comes to my mind. So there must be something else also which he must be teaching. So he says, yeah, of course. Then this is the final teaching. He says, come monks, keep guarding the doors to your sense faculties. On seeing a form with eye, do not grasp at its signs and features. Since if you are to dwell without restraint on the faculty of eye, avidya, domanasya, papaka, akusala, dhamma will arise. That we can understand that. Practice restraint and guard the faculty of eye. And same thing he advises us to with respect to all the sense doors. So this is a very important hidden message that attraction can arise not just by looking at the body, it can also arise based on inputs from other senses. आपको याद होगा कि भगवान कहते हैं कि पुरुष के लिए स्त्री की आवाज से सुंदर कोई चीज नहीं जो उसका माइंड आकर्षण करे, और स्त्री के लिए पुरुष की आवाज से ज्यादा कोई ऐसी लुभावनी चीज नहीं जो उसका ध्यान उस तरफ अट्रैक्ट करे. So following that, the advice is given of keeping the all senses in restraint. जैसे ही कुछ देखें, just we don't get attached to the features and signs of this. So it's a kind of a practice. In seeing, there is only seeing, in hearing, there is only hearing, and so on. And so when you practice regard like that, obviously, the comprehensive checking of the arising of lobha, greed, or kala, kam, vasana at any sense too. Then, of course, king is deeply impressed, and as is usual in the suttas, say it's wonderful and so on. So that gives us the whole 3 different possibilities. And the first one जो है वो तो हमारे देश में अब एक तरह से काफी हद तक it become a part of culture that we are taught to treat people in that manner, either as your sister or as your mother or your daughter, so that the possibility of unwholesome thoughts arising is drastically curtailed. So that was about the sutta which I wanted to share with you. Obviously, to be able to practice Asubha Sanya to perfection is quite a task. And but unless you have deep samadhi and you're able to practice it continuously, it will take some time. And the lust being such a strong instinct, because we are all born from the lust of our parents. So we carry that sankhara in a very deep manner. So we find some very striking statements about bhikkhus who face this problem and how difficult it became for them to be able to handle it. So Therigatha and Therigatha are such wonderful sources of such information. तो थेरगाथा में एक बहुत ही पावरफुल वृतांत आता है अरहंत सप्पदास का. तो I'll just read out, it's a small one, I'll read out the translation. In the 25 years since I went forth, I have not found peace of mind even for as long as a finger snap. So that is something. Huh? And he's still holding on. He says, I have not found peace even for as long as a finger snap. जितनी देर में मैं चुटकी बजाता हूँ उतनी देर में मेरा मन शांत नहीं रहा. क्यों? Since I could not get my mind ununified, I was tormented by sexual desire. So when this happened for so long, suddenly he realized the terrible state of his mind, and he says, wailing with outstretched arms, I burst out of my dwelling. And then he started thinking, what is the point of living? मतलब इस तरह से जीने का मतलब क्या है? मुझे तो suicide ही कर लेना चाहिए. And then he says, then I picked up a razor and sat on a bench. The razor was ready to cut my vein. I was just sitting there, overcoming the hesitation to commit suicide. And in that moment of deep attention, what he says is, then right attention arose in me. The danger became clear, and I was thoroughly disenchanted. I think the Pali word will be good to read because हमको समझ में आता है ये right attention क्या कह रहे हैं. ततो में मनसिकारो योनिसो उद्पच्चत. तो योनिसो मनसिकार में उत्पन्न हुआ. योनिसो मनसिकार is the basis on the proximate cause for jnana darshanam. So you're able to see clearly what is going on in my mind at this moment and what has been going on in the past, and you could see. And then what happened? Adi navo patura. Adi nava sanya, which you mentioned in the beginning, that arose. That's such a grave danger, whether I commit suicide or whether I remain with the addicted to the sexual fantasies. It's terrible danger for me. And reflecting deeply, nibbida samatthitthata. So nibbida arose. And it arose so powerfully that tato chittam vimucci me passa dhamma su dhammadam. See the excellence of Dhamma, he says, my mind got liberated from all sankharas. So that's the kind of exaltation of an arhat. And what do we learn from it? It needs a lot of persistence and patience. That Sappadasa withstood the vagaries of the mind for 25 years and kept on practicing, trying, till of course he gave up. And then reflecting deeply, he could see through the tragedy which the mind was bringing forth and developed disenchantment. मतलब सारे इस काम वासना से, सारे संस्कारों से प्रति एकदम मोह भंग हो गया, and the mind got freed. There is a conjugate part of अशुभ संन्या, उसका एक भाग माना जाता है आहारे प्रतिकूल संन्या. आहार न्यूट्रिमेंट भोजन के प्रति प्रतिकूल परसेप्शन, प्रतिकूल संज्ञा बनाना. जैसे अशुभ संन्या में हमने काया के प्रति प्रतिकूल विचार किया कि उसकी ड्रॉबैक्स क्या हैं, उसमें क्या क्या इम्प्योरिटीज हैं, क्या क्या डिफिकल्टीज हैं, उसी तरह भोजन के बारे में भी. एंड इट इज रिकमेंडेड, दिस practice is specially recommended for those who are strongly obsessed with food, and have a very strong craving for various flavors and tastes and so on. Of course, in its general form, आपको ख्याल होगा कि हम कई बार चर्चा कर चुके हैं, आहार जो है सिर्फ फिजिकल आहार नहीं होता. Thus, चेतना and vijnana are also ahar. They are the mental concomitants of ahar, because they all are the nutriments for nourishing our body and mind. But as far as Patikul Sanya is concerned, it is basically the physical ahar, जो कबलीकारो आहार ऐसे कहा जाता है, जो बॉल बना के खाया जाए, उस तरह का भोजन जो कि च्यू किया जाता है, टेस्ट किया जाता है, खाया जाता है या पिया जाता है, उसकी बात कर रहे हैं. कि उसके अंदर जो रिपल्सिव एस्पेक्ट है, जो उसमें एस्पेक्ट ऐसा है जो कि असुंदर है, उसकी ओर ध्यान करें. उसका उद्देश्य क्या है? ताकि हमारे फ्लेवर्स के प्रति जो आकर्षण है वो समाप्त हो जाए. एंड ऑब्वियसली इट इज great importance for bhikkhus because they have to eat whatever they get, and should be of equally great importance for good meditators, so that they don't spend most of their time chasing foods of various kinds, because as the Lord explains to us again and again, the food should be eaten for the nourishment, for health. And जैसे कि वो उदाहरण बार बार आता है कई जगह पे कि एक बैलगाड़ी जब जा रही है और उसमें आवाज आती है ची 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 ची, तो जो किसान उसमें बैठा है वो आराम से सो नहीं पाता. तो क्या करेगा? वो उतरता है और तेल लाता है और उसकी एक्सेल में तेल डालता है चारों पहियों में, और फिर वो गाड़ी जो है बड़ी आराम से चलती है. इतनी आराम से बैलगाड़ी चलती है, किसान उसमें लेट के सो भी सकता है. तो इसी तरह से भगवान कहते हैं भोजन खाने का मतलब का उद्देश्य ये होना चाहिए दैट द बॉडी शुड नॉट क्रीक. हमारे शरीर जो है ना भूख के कारण ना अति भोजन करने के कारण, अप्रोप्रिएट अमाउंट, इसलिए बार बार भत्तमतन्यों की बात की जाती है. अप्रोप्रिएट अमाउंट एंड विच इज न्यूट्रिशियस, नॉट because it's not for the taste which we should eat. Of course, it doesn't mean we have a big force unpleasant tastes on us, but that should not be our seeking. Our seeking should be nourishment, which is a very important thing in modern times also, we know that. तो उसकी रिपल्सिवनेस के लिए उसके प्रतिकूल जो विचार हैं उसके डिटेल्स जो है विशुद्ध धम्म में दी गई हैं काफ़ी सारी. कई चीज़ें ऐसी हैं जो शायद हमारे लिए उतनी उपयुक्त नहीं होगी, तो मैं संक्षेप में उसको आपके सामने प्रस्तुत करता हूँ. तो पहली बात तो ये कही जाती है कि भाई आप भोजन सीख करना है, लाना है, तो उसके लिए मेहनत करनी. आई एम टॉकिंग फ्रॉम द पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू ऑफ हाउस होल्डर्स. नो, वी हैव टू वर्क हार्ड फॉर इट एंड अर्न आवर लाइवलीहुड, एंड देन enormous amount of difficulties you have to face for that purpose. Many unpleasant situations in the workplace and going there, coming there, and all that. And that's one of the drawbacks or difficulties associated with food. It is pointed. That's how it is put in the texts. Then when we use up, when you start using the food and eating the food, our hands get spoiled, and the food which is apparently looking very nice, and once we start taking it in our mouth and chewing it up, and it becomes the whole appearance of the food becomes very bad. It becomes spoiled, especially since monks are supposed to eat by mixing everything together and making into a ball and eating it like that. It says that this whole process totally spoils the appearance of the food, and it doesn't look any longer pleasing when you eat it in that manner. और जब हम उसको मुंह के अंदर ले आते हैं, चाहे और उसमें सलाइवा और अब हमारे जो बाइल है, फिल्म है, वो भी बीच बीच में मिलता रहता है, then it becomes quite repulsive. And then finally it goes to the belly. और वो belly की state कैसी है? If you contemplate on what is the belly, it is like a receptacle, like एक बर्तन है जिसको कि सारी जिंदगी कभी धोया ही नहीं गया. अगर मैं 70 साल का हूँ तो 70 साल से वो बर्तन वैसा का वैसा ही, इसमें आती है गंदगी, जाती है, आती है गंदगी, जाती है, उसको धोया ही नहीं गया. एंड देन यू कंटेम्पलेट इन दैट मैनर एंड सी that the food is going into that place, and then वो undigested food जो है वो वहाँ पे gas बनाता है, उसमें bubbles होते हैं, and you get all kinds of smells and all kinds of gases arising in the body and hurting here and hurting there in the body. And finally, that food gets digested and it becomes an excrement and it has to go out. And it goes out through all the 9 doors of the body, through eyes, as eye dirt, as ears, through ear dirt, and through hairs. And that's the result of all this food which we have been eaten. We eat it through one mouth, one duct, and it comes out through all the 9 doors in the body. And we can, and these are the kind of contemplations which are done to reduce down the craving for the flavors and tastes. And when you eat it with hands, especially, then the whole hand is smeared up. Then you have to clean it again. Then you have to again see that the smell in the hand is there. You have to clean it again and again to remove the smell. And the whole, not only that hands get smeared, our teeth also get spoiled. Something will get stuck in between the teeth. And then you have to go and clean it and wash your mouth again and again to clean it. So these are the kind of reflections which are done so as to create a kind of pratikula mansikar regarding the process of eating food. And the main idea of this practice of this sanya is that mind should retract from the craving for flavors and tastes. जो हमारी craving है भोजन के लिए वो कम हो जाए. And he should therefore only focus on nourishing himself with nutritious food only for the purpose of crossing over from suffering. ताकि मेरा शरीर इस लायक रहे, स्वस्थ रहे कि मैं साधना ठीक से कर सकूं. इसलिए नहीं कि मुझे दिखाना है कि मैं इतना न्यूट्रिशियस फूड खा रहा हूं या मैं इतना महंगा फूड खा रहा हूं और इतने नाना प्रकार के व्यंजन कर रहा हूं. Not for showing off, not for kind of vanity, as the Buddha puts it, but for the purpose of nourishing the body so that it is fit enough. It should neither creak because of hunger nor creak because of overeating, and it is fit enough for crossing over the suffering so that you can do the sadhana and cross over. So I think that's about the time we have for us today. So we'll take leave.